What's up, YouTube? I'm Sam Coleman. I'm the guy behind Carrot Top Dyes, and today I'm going to try and walk you through how I do what I do. So yeah, this is my first time doing this, so videos might not be the easiest to view and whatnot, but tried to get all of the different techniques I use onto one disc, one die. So here is the disc that we're going to be making today. Turned out pretty cool. A couple things I don't love about it, but yeah. So we got today glue beds, lotion painting, hot dipping, how I place my stencil, and then kind of that wood grain brush technique that I've been doing lately, and finish off with a spin dye. So yeah, if you've been wondering how I do what I do at all, or are new to disc dyeing, this video should help you out. You could follow along and make the exact same disc if you want, or just kind of take one of the techniques that I do in here. But yeah, without further ado, come check it out. Alrighty, so starting off, so I use a Silhouette Cameo 3. So this is the Silhouette Studio or whatever it's called. So yeah, basically how I start with all my stencils, as you can see, I've got my image already. Honestly, guys, I just steal images off Google. Maybe don't be like me, maybe pay for them. But yeah, so I make a circle and I make that 8¼ inches. It seems to be, yeah, pretty much what all disc sizes are. Just so then I get to see what it's going to look like on the disc, how much of the disc it's going to be taking up. Yeah, it's just gives you a nice visual to work with. Then yeah, I'm gonna play around with the size of it a little bit, and then I always make a really small little circle, and just hit the center button on that one. Make sure it's completely centered on my design. This one here, it's gonna clip a bit of the cutting on it, so I'm gonna move it as close as I can to the center without it wrecking one of the other lines. Here I'm just struggling because it has this feature where it wants to auto connect to an existing line, and it is definitely grinding my gears here. But yeah, watch me struggle for a little bit. There we go. Got her all figured out. Looks good. Now what I'm gonna do, I don't want to cut an exact circle the size of my disc. I want to make it a little bit bigger, so I usually go about 8.8 inches, maybe 9. Make sure that's centered, and then that just gives me a good little extra bit of vinyl that I can wrap around. Next up, I'm just going to group it all together so none of that moves, and if I want to move it around a little, depending on how much vinyl I got on my cutting mat. So for my cut settings, I just switched over to using a manual blade instead of the auto blade on this one. It's like the premium blade that's supposed to work a little better, but I like going with, in this video I put 2, 4, and 11. 2 wasn't quite cutting it deep enough. There was still a couple things holding on. So lately I've been going 3, 4, and 11, and that's really killer. So 3 there, 4 on the speed, and 11 on the force. Now I'm going to show you guys how I wipe the stamps off my disc, because it seems like a fairly simple thing, but I used to use paper towel and just shred discs. All of them were just scratched to bits. So yeah, so what I use is those little makeup wipe removers. I got a 4-pack of them, I believe, at Walmart for $5. And then I get the tap running the whole time I'm doing it, just because this way, especially if you got a colored stamp on a white disc. Here I'm doing, I think it's a old Canadian National stamp on Glimmer Lucid Escape. I think that's plastic Glimmer Lucid or Lucid X or whatever it's called, but very shiny, a little translucent. But yeah, again, I just find if you go too much acetone, you hit the color, sometimes the red would just seep out and get all over the disc. So that's why I just run the water. I just find then when the acetone hits, it picks up the red and just runs off the disc a little smoother. Whereas sometimes it'll pick up the red and then the acetone just absorbs to the disc so quickly that it'll be running down, and before it gets off, it sinks into the disc, and then you've got a big red stain on your nice white disc. So usually you can go a little heavier on the acetone once you have one of those little smears, and just as long as you're using something really gentle like a cotton ball or one of these makeup removers, and rub it out of there. But yeah, biggest thing is just go slow. Don't use one for too long, because once all the color gets taken in there, you're just spreading color around the disc. And yeah, just lots of circles. Get it nice and clean. Good to go. So now I got my stencil. I've cut it out. How I get it off the mat, I just roll the mat backwards. You don't want to pull it straight off, because sometimes some of the pieces will fall off. So just roll your mat, and then everything when you're rolling it comes off smoother. So roll that off the old cutting mat. And then just recently I got one of these. Okay, I just got interrupted by my wife coming in there. But yeah, so right now I just got one of these light boards. So plop the stencil on the light board, and it just shows you all the cut lines. Often you'll have to do a little surgery, we call it, on the stencil afterwards, where the really little cuts will have been lifted up, but usually they're still sitting pretty close by the hole that they should go in. So just kind of, yeah, pull them around, pull them back into where they're supposed to go, and that'll help you out. Okay, so now here I think I'm using a 6-inch roll of, it almost feels like a masking tape, the transfer tape here. I really like this stuff, but I do hate that it's a 6-inch roll, because you have to use 2 pieces every time. So I have just ordered, I think it's clear too, the new stuff that I got, and it's a 12-inch roll. So I haven't actually tried it out yet, but I'm like, a lot of the higher up disc dyers use it, so I'm pretty sure it's better. So if you're looking to get transfer tape, maybe go with the 12-inch clear. But can't say for sure. This stuff works good. It's just got to do 2 pieces. So I always slap it on one corner first, pretty solid, and then just use the little squeegee. Push it down slow as you go. You don't want any air bubbles in that, so not too hard to get the transfer tape. It's pretty easy to work with. Once you get the transfer tape on, you're going to roll off the backing the same way that I rolled the cutting mat. Just a nice tight roll almost guarantees you're not going to pick up anything, even the really little ones that are barely hanging on. Yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but it just does way better than if you're trying to peel it straight off. So I just do a nice little tight roll up of it, and it looks kind of cool at the end. But yeah, very smooth way to get it off with nothing left behind. Next up is how I'm going to place the disc on the stencil. So I got a laser. I line that laser up perfectly with that little dot that I told you about during the stencil stage. I just make sure that the dot's shining right on it, and then when I lay the disc down, the dot's right in the middle of my disc, and then I just put some pressure on it while it's still laying there. Excuse me, I'm drinking beer and I kind of have the burps, but yeah, just give a nice push down while it's there. And then as soon as you get it up, you can either take, I got one of these little squeegee things from like, I think it's from a Silhouette weeding pack, but a credit card works fine too, any kind of gift card, thing like that. What you want to do is really start in the middle and don't force it all too fast. Start in the middle and just kind of weed a small circle in the middle, and then every lap around the disc spread a little bit farther out. So this one's in quite fast forward mode here, but I think it took me like 5 minutes to actually fully press this thing down. You just want to make sure, like, that's why we cut it at 8.8, is so that all the corners are going to overlap over top of the edges of the disc. So that makes it really nice to work with, whether you're hot dipping or doing a glue bed or anything like that. You just don't get anything coming up onto the edges of your disc because you got a little bit of vinyl going over the sides. Now when I'm pulling off the transfer tape, similar kind of deal. You don't have to roll it as smooth, but make sure you're pulling one corner and you've got it real tight, pulling across. As long as you've done a good job pressing it down, it shouldn't pull up any pieces. Again, if it does start pulling up a piece, I just go backwards with it, press it back down, and then just kind of get a little more pulling away from the disc when I'm lifting it up. Now again, I'm just going to go over the edges, make sure that it's tucked over real nice. This just helps, like if you go for a hot dip, you splash a little bit and then the water hops up and gets in between the disc and the transfer, or in the vinyl. You can just start to get like ugly smearing on the back of your disc, and it looks really messy when you're finished up. So just a really good way to keep it clean through the whole process. Also just really nice to look at. I used to do some really janky, I got 14 inches of vinyl, a bunch covering the bottom, or you got like 6 inches of vinyl. And the thing is about that too, is I used to do a lot of smaller pieces of vinyl just to save some money. But then if you pull the vinyl off, often it pulls off a little bit of like just some kind of, I don't know, a film off the disc, so it looks like the color looks a little different where the vinyl was versus where it wasn't. Here I'm just weeding it, pulling off my outline, which I'm going to hot dip black. So I don't make you watch this whole thing because I was kind of struggling here. Again, the two level depth was a little bit high, and so I didn't get a perfect cut on all this, so that's why I was extra struggling here. But there we go. We got it all done. Just like that. Took 30 seconds. No, it actually took a while, but so here's my pan that's dedicated to hot dips. I used one of my wife's pans the first time, and this stuff stains pretty good, I find. Maybe you guys have had better luck with nonstick pans or something, but this is my pan dedicated to disc dyeing. It's good size. Got it at Value Village for like $3. And so yeah, my mixture there, I think I did 16 ounces of water with a teaspoon of black iDye poly. iDye poly is the best black I've found, and I found it at a store for like $4 a pack, so I bought like 10 of them there. And so, yeah, it's my go-to for this. So again, I put it on about medium heat, let it heat up. Don't let it boil. You don't want it bubbling. It's too hot then. I burned a disc the one time doing that. But you want to see this little bit of smoke, like kind of smoky, vapory look coming off the top of it. It means, and like the water will be like kind of starting to move, like it's close to boiling, but you don't want it to boil. So get it to that look, turn off the burner. I leave it on the same burner still, and then you want to roll the disc in. If you've done any kind of beds, lotion beds, glue beds, you want to roll it in so you don't get any air bubbles under there. Same thing with a hot dip. It's really nice on a clear disc like this where you can see that you didn't get any air bubbles, but that happens on hot dips too. So this one, I believe I plopped in, just left it for about 15 minutes and totally did the trick. Yeah, here because the light doesn't, because the translucent disc, it doesn't look like it got super dark, but it did. It got black all over there. So yeah, now we got our outline and we get to start with the fun stuff. So I'm essentially just going to make it a coloring book, right, where I'm just going to pull off, actually here I'm going to do all of his kind of main. And so the whole plan here was to do, I've been getting a lot of comments on that wood grain look I've been doing lately. I got a shout out. This is how I dye. It's Kateri. She is a dyer, I believe, from the States. And it's one of her videos that I watched on, some of you have watched the differences doing it, disc dye videos. But I watched her video like 3 weeks ago, and I've been in love with the wood grain look ever since. So got to give her credits. It's not like I originally came up with this. But yeah, it is game changing. It didn't work out great on this disc. It's because it is that translucent plastic, as well as it's got a bunch of little flakes in it. Like it's a really nice glimmery, super nice plastic. But for this look, like it just didn't take the wood grain look super well. So that's my disclaimer for this one here. But so yeah, here's the sponge that I'm using. It's just a craft sponge that I cut in half. This mixture is iDye brown with laundry detergent mostly. I think I just use a generic Tide, what is it here? Downy Ultra Free and Gentle. But mine was a little bit runny, so I added a couple pumps of the lotion that I used to it. You want it to be a little bit less runny so it's not running off your disc. But so what I'm doing here is I'm just like starting at the top and just pulling it down so it makes these nice lines coming down. And it's good actually if you get some clumping, so you have some thick lines and some thin, because again, you want it to look like wood, so you don't want it to be a perfectly smooth look. You want a bunch of jagged lines kind of thing. And then after that, what I do is I go down to the oven. I turn the oven on for about 15 to 20 seconds on like broil, just so it heats up the oven but doesn't get actually hot, like it's not going to melt your disc in any way. And then I just put my disc on top of like a muffin tin or a plate or something like that, so it's not directly on the grill there. And I put it in the oven for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then I rinse it off and do the same process over again. So I didn't show it going in the oven here, but that's what it's doing between each time. As you can see, it's getting a little darker, but it's not really taking on a super grainy look, just because of the plastic again. But I've done this on quite a few Star plastic discs now, Fusion plastic, stuff like that, and it looks so good. It's definitely the thing I've got the most comments on over the last little while. So this one I did about 4 or 5 tries. It was hard to tell how dark it was getting just because of the translucent disc. Like, it was really hard to see. It looks easier to see on the video now, but when I was looking from above, like, it just looked like it wasn't getting darker and it wasn't getting that grainy look. So I was really trying with it. I think this was the last run through I did on it. But again, yeah, you want kind of that all natural, some thick, some thin lines. As soon as you try it yourself, it's super easy and it looks really good. Usually with the Star Plastic, it only takes me 2, max 3 runs through the oven. But now you can see I've taken it off everywhere else, so you can see that the brown's really shining through. And this is when I go through and I lotion paint for all my colors. So what this is, each bottle, I believe they're, are they 4-ounce bottles? 2 ounce or 4-ounce bottles. 4 seems big. I think they're 2-ounce bottles, or maybe even 1. But they're a mixture of, so I put like a little tiny bit of hot water, and then I put a 1/4 teaspoon of dye. Most of these are ProChem. Some are iDye, same mixture. And then this is when I looked up and noticed, oh wait, you can't really see what I'm doing. So I flipped the camera over here just so you can get a little better view at what I'm painting. And it looks like I'm left-handed, but the camera just flipped. So yeah, I mix a little bit of water, 1/4 teaspoon of dye, and then the rest is lotion. And a lot of people, like I used to do with lotion, and it was way too runny, but I switched over to using this Vaseline Aloe Vera Intensive Care Vaseline Jelly, and it works awesome, and it smells really good. Your disc will smell like whatever lotion you use on it for quite a while afterwards, so maybe take that into consideration. Don't use something you hate. I used a coconut lotion one time, and it smelled really good, but yeah, so basically I'm just doing a coloring book right now. I got these needle tip bottles off Amazon. Not saying that everyone should support Amazon, but I don't know who sells these besides Amazon, so got them at Amazon. These ones are okay. A bunch of the lids are breaking on me. That's why I got this janky tape job on this one. So I just ordered a new set. I'll try and link all of the products I use in the description so you can go on a shopping spree if you need to. I'm going to link the Canadian ones just because that's where I'm from. But yeah, if you live in the States, you'll probably have cheaper and more options. But yeah, basically I'm just coloring in between the lines here. I don't know. I was going kind of a random pattern. I did mostly, like, I liked the red, orange, gold kind of look with some, I think this is dandelion yellow here. It's the best yellow, undefeated for sure. The orange is a burnt sienna, which is also a really nice color. I love it for my glue beds. Totally changed the game. Just like a molten lava kind of look. It was a little bit runny, that mixture, so it kind of spilled on it. And I did a really good job of being in the lines, and then right when I finished and I cut the video, then I went to set it underneath my heat lamp and I dropped it. And so I got a big smear of red across the eye that I looked at, and I was like, I could just rinse the whole thing right now, but it takes, it's pretty, takes a while to do it. So I was like, whatever, it's not going to be a huge deal. And because of it, there's a little blemish, but whatever. Nothing's perfect. So yeah, once it's done, I set it. I got this heat lamp set up underneath my desk. Usually it gets a disc around 100 to 115 degrees if you're checking over the temperature. At the end there, just gave it a rinse. Yeah, so I set it under the heat lamp for probably 45 minutes, I think it was. And that's the beauty of heat. It just makes all of us with ADHD so happy because you have to wait so much less time. So now what I'm using, this is a little bit of contact paper I just got at Michael's. It's nothing to write home about. But basically I use that when I'm trying to cover up an entire thing before doing a glue bed. I might have done this in a different order in the future. Like if I was doing this for not a video, what I probably would have done is done the black outline, and then before I weeded all the stuff in the middle, done my glue bed on the outside. So if you want to save some time, I would do that. But yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking on that. Oh, I guess because I was doing the sponge painting, I kind of wanted it masked on the outside. That's why. So yeah, never mind. Stick with this way. But yeah, then it is a pain. You got to cut it all out, match. But you just essentially follow the black line while you're cutting it out. Use an X-Acto knife for one of these. Yeah, again, it didn't cut through super duper well, so I kind of got to do some surgery on it. But yeah, we're just making sure that our nice stencil that we worked so hard on doesn't get wrecked when we slap it in our glue bed. yeah, there's sometimes now where I'm doing some more textured backgrounds and stuff that have been fun to mess with, but I love glue beds. They were the first dye that I tried, and they will always look cool to me. It's just great because you put a disc in something for a full day, and you're just excited the whole time to pull it out. And sometimes you're disappointed, but I'd say 80-90% of the time you're really excited because it comes out cooler than you think it would. Again, this translucent plastic is, translucent I don't love dyeing, but this one's got this glimmer to it that is just awesome. Like, they look really good. And so, yeah, I switched over to using these 2-ounce bottles. Okay, so my lotion ones definitely aren't 2 ounces, my bad. But 2-ounce glass bottles here because acetone will destroy plastic. I think there's some cool ones in the States that everyone uses that are acetone resistant, but I don't know what those are. So I had these glass ones on Amazon. They were pretty good. I haven't had to refill them for a long time. And then, yeah, I've got a kind of pipette for each color. So I'm going to start with my black lines going down the middle. I really like doing these glue beds. I got to shout out Daddy Mac Dyes. He has some wicked tutorials on YouTube, and that's totally where I've copied all of what I know about glue beds from. Yeah, he's wicked. But yeah, so start out by laying my black lines down the middle. I'm going pretty slow here. I honestly kind of got out of practice with glue beds, so I'm trying really hard to do this one good. But essentially what ends up happening is my wife works an important job where she takes calls all the time, and this is her office space as well. So right after I lay this black down, she tells me to get out because she has to take an important call. So what that does over time is, like, the black just spreads out like crazy, which is not at all what you want to do because you want 2 skinny lines down the middle. So these are pretty thick right now. And then what I'm going to do is take the old, like, I got this, I don't even know, it's just this piece of tube from Home Depot somewhere. I think it was in the plumbing aisle. Just a skinny long tube that I cut into like 3 long straws, which is nice because then you can just bend it whichever way you need. And so then, yeah, I'm just going to blow this skinnier. You just blow on each side of it, skinny it up a little bit. A lot of people say I can never get these skinny lines. The thing is, like, you don't actually need to make them that skinny. You need to blow them together as best you can, but then it's the other dye that will essentially sandwich them closer together. Like, it'll squeeze them smaller. And that's really the technique you got to do. So if anything, I probably still did a little too much black in this one. I should have dropped from a little bit higher up so it spread out a little more and wasn't quite as solid, because I did put quite a bit of black in there. But I don't know. Again, play around with it. The thing about disc dyeing, you can't watch one video and be a master. You gotta, like, put in the work and mess up a lot of discs. Borrow your friend's discs. Dye your whole bag. My bag was the ugliest bag in the world for the first year I was disc dyeing. I started dyeing like really nice discs for other people, and my bag still looked horrible. So I finally started putting some effort into my bag because it's kind of like I'm advertising to everyone when I go to tournaments and stuff. So finally have some nice looking discs in my bag. But again, you just got to try this yourself. This is a little painful to watch, but they're not really getting smaller. And then, yeah, my wife's going to kick me out here in a minute anyways. So it ends up not mattering because they spread out like crazy. And then you're actually not going to get to see me lay the rest of it. But essentially what I do, I lay a strip of yellow. Yeah, there we go. Getting the boot. Lay a strip of yellow right down the middle. And then I'm going to put red on both outsides with burnt sienna right in between the red and the black. And the burnt sienna really pushes, it's a pretty strong dye, so it pushes into the black and just skinnies it up. And then you put enough yellow down there that it kind of holds its own. So yeah, now what I'm going to do is just mix the red and orange, burnt sienna, whatever, together. Just give it some nice patterns with the toothpick. And then, yeah, I'm just going to keep that in the dye the whole time and just do a little zigzag pattern. Yeah, and so, like, the toothpick does help and gives you those kind of sharp cuts, but then the straw, like, just blowing it really gives you that movement look to it, and it totally made my glue beds like 1,000 times better than they ever were before. That was the biggest thing I took out of Daddy Mac Dyes ones, is just like if you used, like, if I would have done this back, and if I'm really taking my time and the glue bed's the main focus, I'm putting probably 2 or 3 different color of reds in this one where the red is, and probably 2 different oranges as well, and then 2 different yellows down the middle. And then you swirl those together and you get this really nice, like, color movement pattern that just, like, yeah, it just looks like there's layers to it and it's moving all over. So I'm just going to take these drawn, these lines that are already there from the Q-tip and just blow along with them, where then it just kind of takes them for a run where they're, I don't know, kind of a flame skipping through there. It's cool because glue beds are like, you kind of don't have, like they have that sense of like you don't have the control that you do with a stencil or lotion painting or whatever, and you're not using heat, but you can control them pretty well. Like now, usually I can tell before I dye something if it's going to go well or if there's going to be a problem with it. So as you do them more, you get to know what you like, what you're looking for, and how to control them well. At the end, you got to give it a torch because when you're blowing it around, it creates a lot of bubbles. So I'm just going to torch out all the bubbles there. Sometimes I'll actually try and get more bubbles if I'm doing kind of like a galaxy look. Because then if you get those bubbles and your original plastic color is like a white or a yellow and you have kind of a purpley blue sky, then like, yeah, it looks like little stars speckled all over. So I'll try and get lots of air bubbles. But this one, don't want any of them. Going to burn them all out. You don't want to hold it on there too long though, because you can burn like a spot of glue and then it just kind of solidifies and doesn't do anything for you. So yeah, do that. Oh, I don't know if I said, but my acetone mixes, like for my dyes here, I do a 1/4 teaspoon of dye with 2 ounces of acetone, and most of the dyes I activate with a little bit of hot water first, just because like the neons especially really react to the hot water nicely, kind of activates the color, and then you mix the acetone with it, shake them up, leave them for 10 minutes, and then you're good to use them. I haven't mixed a new set in a long time. I've got 24 colors up here and they've been going forever. So yeah, when you lay that down, be really careful. You wanna slowly roll it on there rather than just plop it on, because you don't want the air bubbles. But okay, so last step, it's looking good now. This is the next day, 24 hours is what you let that wait for. To line it up on the record player, plop it on there, and then you just use 2 fingers on points pretty close on the disc, and you just kind of play with it. Like, it's hard to explain. You keep 2 of your thumbnails there, and it should just start consistently scraping along them rather than like kind of hopping on and off and bumping them. So that's how I lay it. You don't really need a jig or anything like that. And then with the spin dye, I'm doing direct acetone, so it takes pretty quick. So the biggest problem I see people doing with acetone is they're just laying it on really thick. So you get this really thick layer. So I make sure every time after I get the acetone on the Q-tip, I dab it on I use like the shop towel there, dab it on there, and then do like 2 or 3 laps around max, and it gives you a pretty solid line. This one I was doing it pretty light, so I was kind of getting that lighter black kind of spreading on there. You can kind of see it on this video. So yeah, nothing major. That's just to kind of frame it up. But yeah, that is the disc. That is, you can see that spill from the red on the left eye there. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with how it turned out. The plastic looks awesome. The wood grain's not amazing on this one, but it is still a very cool looking disc. Proud of it. And yeah, I was happy to just share these things with you guys. I get so many questions about them. Now I can direct you guys all to one video. And yeah, I think that's it.